Hello, my name is Rex and I am a dead man walking, and I want to share some of my dead man walking story with you in the hope that it might be a help or an encouragement to either you, if you're on this journey yourself, or someone that you love who is, and just to let you know that you're not alone and that there is a future beyond what might be easy to see for you right now. Last time we talked about my first 6-monthly surveillance scan after the surgery and everything, which removed a large blockage, which was a tumour completely blocking my bowel. And at the 6-monthly surveillance testing, they check for any changes. They look for recurrence of more cancer or spread of the original cancer. And from the scanning and from the colonoscopy, in this case, there was no additional cancer found, and so I guess that's what you would call an all clear result. And today I'm just going to share the next installment of my story, which was how I brought about some self-inflicted injury, which I still have the consequences of to this day. And I'll tell you about how that came about. So after all the chemotherapy and the scanning and everything appearing to be as positive as you could really ask for at that point in time, as I stopped the chemotherapy, I started over the weeks following that to feel a little bit more normal. And of course that takes quite some time after chemotherapy, often starting to feel more normal, because it is actually destroying the building blocks of your body in some ways, the cells and so forth that cause cancer as well as cause normal cell growth and health. But I was experiencing some increased body strength, which felt really good in my muscles and particularly in my abdominal area, around my stomach and that. And but what I wasn't really taking into account was that stronger muscles around the area doesn't mean a stronger wound. The wound still needs to heal up to strength as well. And when they did the surgery, it was emergency surgery. There was fecal matter and everything around. It was an infection type environment, and they weren't able to use what they normally would have done, is put a mesh pad in there to help things hold together once it was all back together. But they couldn't do that. They couldn't put mesh in because of the infection risk under those circumstances, and so it was stitched only. All the fat and the muscle and everything was just stitched together and stapled in some ways as well. I think the stapling was only at the skin level though, and at the rectal stump. But whatever the case, of course, that is much weaker than a mesh repair. And the surgeons had been really diligent to warn me against lifting things. And I also have a funny feeling that when you're going through chemotherapy at the same time as surgical healing, that perhaps the damage to your natural body's cell reproduction and healing is probably affected by the chemotherapy as well. So it might perhaps not go as fast as it normally would. So of course I had this big surgical wound, just under 30 centimeters long, or 25, whatever it was, and it was very weak, and it was holding the whole weight of my body on it anytime I bent, got out of bed, all that sort of thing. But was starting to feel a little bit stronger. It felt good, and I started doing more stuff that I had done before. And we lived on a country property with lots of trees, large trees and so forth, and work that needed doing. So I started doing some things I had been doing before, including chainsawing down a grove of trees, perhaps more than 20 large trees that were more than 20 or 30 meters high each, with a decent sized stump on them, and so forth. And it felt really good to be doing more active things. It felt like a real blessing. And so from that, and also from previous years of cutting down wood and firewood and so forth, I had some rather large tree trunk rounds which had been cut into rings, and they had been seasoning for more than a year. at that point as well, and I wanted to do some splitting of these into firewood so they would serve our winter needs. And so a friend came over and gave me a lot of help with that, and so one morning we started to carry these large rounds onto another friend's hydraulic wood splitter, and we were splitting up these logs. So they were heavy. It was a good solid 2-person lift for these sort of 1 metre diameter rings, trunk rings and so forth. It was reasonably heavy work, and I had actually noticed a few days over previous days when I'd been felling some trees and just sort of bending down to the ground doing the chainsawing and everything, that I had a bit of a bulge developing at the front of my abdomen, in my front, and I didn't really think too much about it. It stung perhaps a little bit, but not much. I couldn't really feel any major pain or anything. I paid no attention to it. But so we were doing these rings and splitting up these logs and so forth, and when it got to the afternoon, we'd been lifting these rounds all morning, and I think I noticed I was wearing a t-shirt and the bulge was getting a bit bigger. You could see it through the t-shirt, and then another friend joined us to help a bit that afternoon, and but when he arrived, he took one look at my t-shirt, and he pointed and he said, "That, my friend, is a hernia." and so he felt immediately, just on seeing it, that it was an unnatural big bulge, and that something was coming out where it shouldn't have been in my stomach, and he was right. So I kind of, I guess I felt a little bit panicked by that idea. I didn't know anything about hernias, but I called the health service that we have in New Zealand, a line that you can call, and they told me that I had to go to the emergency department at the hospital. They said it could be dangerous, and I do understand that if your stomach gets caught in a gap of a hernia opening, that it can actually cut off the blood supply and kill your stomach, kill that part of your stomach, and you're in real trouble. It's life-threatening at that point. And so they said I had to go to the emergency department, and so off I went. And so they looked at everything. I think they did another scan and did all the diligent things that they do at the hospital, and then after that, also initially they said it would be okay for now, and gave me a list of things to watch for, that if any of them happened to get in there immediately again. And the surgeon, when he looked at it later properly, he advised that it was a huge hernia. It went sort of the full length of the original incision for the surgery, but he said that was a good thing because it presented a low risk of cutting off the blood supply to the intestine, to the bowel, and so he left it just as it was. He felt that was the best thing, and I'm really thankful for his good judgment there. And he booked me in for non-urgent surgery, but he said that just keep an eye on it, but that it should be okay. Being a large hole is actually better than it being a small breach. And so that was the surgeon's outlook on things at that point in time. So I'm just going to briefly show you what that is now. Of course, we're a year down the track from when it happened, but it looks pretty much the same as it did then, perhaps a tiny bit bigger than it was at that stage. But I'll show you, out of interest, what that actually looks like. So I'm going to pop the camera down towards the stomach and we'll have a look at it. Alright, so looking from the front, it's not very pronounced. You can see I've got the incision that went from there to there, and that's where they cut initially. You can see the way that my belly button sort of was chopped in half there, and so there's a bit there and a bit there now. That there, of course, is my stoma bag, which is where things come out the front side rather than the back side. And but when we turn sideways, you can see, well, you can actually see there, you can probably see just how loose that is going through there. It's actually, instead of being a whole lot of stomach muscle and everything, that's all opened up, and I can actually push in and feel the sides of it out at the sides there. But in the middle here, it's just soft skin followed by intestines, and you can feel it gurgle and everything as you touch it. And if I turn sideways, that suddenly becomes much more pronounced as to what's really going on there. This should just be flat. It should normally sit kind of just like it would have sat like that, even with my fatness. But you can see that's definitely extended way out. It should be roughly straight down there. And so that's all stomach that just pops in and out. You can see just how much it pops in and out all. And yeah. But one of the things that has been a real blessing to help maintain that, because of course every time you get up and down it tears the thing further, it pushes further at the wound. And something that has been excellent is this here. It's a stomach binder belt. This one here is made by an outfit called Cool Knit in Australia. But it does an amazing job for two things. One is it does actually hold your stoma bag in place flat, which is good. You've got to be careful not to stop your stoma bag from being able to be used by your body, of course. But this thing here, I'll pop it on, and what it does is when you pop it in there and over the top, it pulls things right in. You can see, yes, there is still a bulge there, but it really supports your stomach so as not to push out every time you do a little thing. And I've found that has been the most amazing, helpful tool. In hot weather it's not very nice, it gets wet and everything, but it really does help with just the normal, being able to dress normally. You can see I always have this suspicious bulge. There's nothing I can do about that. It's a bit embarrassing. It's just life. I did it to myself, so it serves me right. But I have to say I would highly recommend, if you ever get a hernia, to get some sort of support for it. And of course the medical professionals are able to advise on that. And but it's been a really good thing to have that for me. So at a later time, when I talked with another surgeon who was looking at some other stuff on my body, he said to me that the hernia would just keep getting bigger and bigger, and it would open and open further. And I think he's been kind of right, but I feel like it has, between the combination of the use of that hernia belt and also the just being careful about how I do things and my technique to get in and out of bed and that sort of thing, I think it has really slowed down the rate of deterioration to the point where I'm quite used to having it now, and it doesn't overly cramp my lifestyle. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it was a stupid thing I did. I didn't listen to the actual limits that they set. I think they'd said don't lift, and this is for 3 months after the surgery and so forth, don't lift anything more than 3 kgs or 5 kgs, something very small, and I didn't listen properly. So I do have to put up with the fact I look a bit odd with this bulge, and it's not a very nice feeling sometimes, the way it gurgles and carries on at night. But today, more than a year later, it feels almost normal to me, and it hasn't given any real problems as long as I take it easy and use the stomach binder belt, which is an extra bonus. It's so hard to know, with these new things. I remember my panic at the time of when it happened, and you just don't know whether something's serious or how serious, and all I could recommend is go straight to the medical people and they will work it out whether it's serious or not for you, which is good. We don't want to waste their energy, but the consequences of not finding out from a professional is pretty big as well in some cases. So yeah, and so I'm learning to try and be a little bit more relaxed and just go and ask the questions and trust them to give the very best of their knowledge, which they do, whatever that proves to be. But in all of this, I think the very clear lesson to me is that I should have listened more carefully to counsel. I shouldn't have thought it'll be all right. I should have simply heeded their instruction and done it. I'd recommend to you, don't think she'll be right, because it probably won't. And yeah, it's also perhaps even as you get older, perhaps your body is a bit less fast to recover, as mine is now, obviously in my 50s compared with when I was in my 20s. So, but I'm very thankful at the end of the day that although I do look a bit odd, that it's not a health risk to me, and I'd only rather that I'd listened better and looked after myself properly so that it didn't happen at all, just because of the bit of awkwardness and that it adds to my life. So yeah, so that was the incisional hernia and how my surgical wound inside came undone and let my stomach through, my intestine through to out by the skin. So next time we get together, I'll share about the second 6-monthly surveillance testing, which again was to check whether the cancer had returned after that first 6-monthly series of testing had come up, and I shall look forward to seeing you then.